The midnight sketch, when dreams take flight. The red glow of Mars filtered through the laboratory windows as Dr. Sarah Chen rubbed her tired eyes. The digital clock on her workbench read to 47 a.m., but sleep remained elusive. For the third night this week, the same vivid dream had jolted her awake. A ship unlike anything humanity had ever built soared through her mind with impossible grace and beauty. Sarah stretched her aching back and walked to the large window overlooking the Martian landscape. Mars Colony Beta sprawled below her private laboratory, its domed structures glowing like jewels against the rust-colored terrain. She had chosen this remote location specifically for its isolation, allowing her to work on experimental designs without interference from the Colonial Engineering Council. The dream ship haunted her thoughts. Its sleek form seemed to defy everything she knew about aerospace engineering. The hull curved in ways that should have created massive drag, yet in her dreams, it moved through space like liquid mercury. The propulsion system made no sense either. Instead of traditional thrusters, the ship seemed to bend space around itself, creating a bubble of distorted reality. Unable to return to sleep, Sarah moved to her drafting table. She had learned long ago that the best way to exercise persistent visions was to sketch them out. Her hands moved automatically, guided by the crystal-clear memory of her dream. The pencil flowed across the paper with practiced precision, capturing every curve and angle of the impossible vessel. The ship's design challenged conventional wisdom. Where human ships were angular and functional, this craft was organic and flowing. Its hull suggested movement even while stationary, like a frozen moment of liquid metal. The propulsion array integrated seamlessly with the ship's structure, creating a harmony between form and function that human engineers had never achieved. As Sarah worked, she found herself adding technical details that hadn't been in her original dream. Equations appeared in the margins, describing energy flows and gravitational interactions that should have been impossible. Her engineering mind translated the dream into blueprints, adding specifications and measurements with uncanny accuracy. The work consumed her for hours. When she finally looked up, the Martian dawn was painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. The completed sketch lay before her, showing a spacecraft that belonged in the realm of fantasy rather than reality. Yet every line felt right, every proportion perfectly balanced. Sarah was about to set the sketch aside when a shadow fell across her window. She looked up and froze. Hovering silently above the laboratory was a ship that perfectly matched her drawing. The vessel was enormous, at least 300 meters long, its silver hull gleaming in the early morning light. It moved with the same fluid grace she had dreamed about, positioning itself directly over her building. Her hands trembled as she reached for the communications console. Before she could activate it, the ship began to emit a complex pattern of harmonic frequencies. The sound was unlike anything in human technology, a musical arrangement that seemed to carry meaning beyond mere noise. The tones resonated through the laboratory structure, creating a melody that was both alien and strangely familiar. Sarah's engineering training kicked in. She activated her recording equipment and began analyzing the frequency patterns. The harmonics were mathematically perfect, following ratios that suggested advanced understanding of acoustic physics. As she worked, she realized the sounds were forming patterns, repeating sequences that resembled a language. The breakthrough came when she recognized prime number sequences embedded in the harmonics. The ship was using mathematical constants to establish communication protocols. Sarah quickly programmed her computer to respond with similar patterns, using Earth's mathematical principles to create a reply. The response was immediate. The ship's harmonics shifted, becoming more complex and nuanced. Over the next several minutes, a rudimentary communication system emerged. The aliens were using mathematical concepts as a universal language, building vocabulary through shared scientific principles. The first clear message chilled Sarah to the bone. The ship's occupants identified themselves as the Cathara, a spacefaring species from the Andromeda galaxy. They had been searching for what they called the Dream Engineer across thousands of worlds and dozens of star systems. Their journey had taken them nearly a century, following quantum signatures that led them to this remote laboratory on Mars. The Cathara explained that Sarah's dreams were not random visions but actual transmissions from their dying homeworld. Their planet, Kithros Prime, was caught in the gravitational grip of a collapsing star. The entire population faced extinction. Within days, unless they could evacuate using ships capable of interstellar travel at unprecedented speeds. The catch was devastating. The Cathara had the theoretical knowledge to build such ships, but their mathematics were incomplete. They lacked the intuitive understanding of space-time mechanics that would make faster-than-light travel possible. Their rigid, logical approach to engineering had hit an insurmountable wall. This was where Sarah's dreams came in. The Cathara had been broadcasting their ship designs across the galaxy, hoping to find a mind capable of completing their work. Sarah's subconscious had been receiving these transmissions, processing them through human creativity and intuition. Her dream ship was the missing piece of their puzzle. The alien vessel descended slowly, landing on the reinforced platform beside Sarah's laboratory. A section of the hull irised open, revealing three beings unlike anything in human imagination. The Cathara were tall and slender, with crystalline structures growing from their foreheads that pulsed with soft light. Their skin had a metallic sheen, and their movements carried an otherworldly grace. They approached Sarah with obvious reverence, their harmonic language translating through the communication system they had established. The leader, who identified herself as Architect Zarath, examined Sarah's sketch with wonder. The human engineer had not only received their transmission, but had improved upon it, adding elements that the Cathara had never considered. Sarah found herself face to face with the greatest engineering challenge in human history. The Cathara needed her to complete their ship design, but the mathematics involved were beyond anything humanity had attempted. The propulsion system required manipulating space-time itself, creating risks that could tear apart the fabric of reality. The weight of millions of lives pressed down on Sarah's shoulders. The Cathara's planet was dying, their civilization facing complete annihilation. Yet the ship design she had dreamed required technologies that humanity barely understood. 1. Miscalculation could create a black hole, destroy Mars Colony Beta, or worse. Architect Zarath shared additional details about their homeworld. Kithros Prime was a world of impossible beauty, with crystal cities that sang in the wind and oceans that reflected entire galaxies. The Kithro were master builders, creating structures that had lasted millions of years. Their art and philosophy had influenced dozens of species across the galaxy. All of this would be lost if Sarah couldn't complete the ship design. The Cathara had the materials and manufacturing capabilities, but they needed the human touch to make the impossible possible. Sarah's intuitive understanding of engineering, combined with humanity's willingness to take calculated risks, represented their only hope. As the Martian sun climbed higher, Sarah made her decision. She would help the Cathara, regardless of the risks. The sketch on her drafting table had become more than a drawing. It was a blueprint for salvation. The real work was just beginning. The laboratory filled with activity as Cathara technicians brought their equipment inside. Sarah watched in amazement as they set up devices that seemed to manipulate matter at the molecular level. The aliens worked with efficiency that bordered on the supernatural, their crystalline foreheads pulsing in synchronized patterns that suggested shared consciousness. Sarah realized she was about to attempt something that would change the course of galactic history. The ship design in her sketch could revolutionize space travel, opening up possibilities that neither human nor Cathara had imagined. But first, she had to make it work. The pressure was enormous, but Sarah felt a strange calm settling over her. This was what she had trained for her entire life. Every equation she had studied, every prototype she had built, had led to this moment. The dream ship was calling to her, waiting to be born. As the day progressed, Sarah began to see patterns in the Cathara technology that reminded her of her own work. Despite their different origins, both species had developed similar approaches to solving engineering problems. The key would be finding the bridges between their technologies, creating a hybrid design that combined the best of both worlds. The clock was ticking, and millions of lives hung in the balance. Sarah rolled up her sleeves and got to work, ready to turn an impossible dream into reality. The engineer's gambit, building the impossible, the next 18 hours blurred together in a haze of calculations, prototypes, and failures. Sarah's laboratory had been transformed into a hybrid workshop where human ingenuity merged with Cathara technology. The aliens worked alongside her with quiet efficiency, their crystalline foreheads pulsing in rhythmic patterns that she had learned indicated deep concentration. The ship design required a propulsion system that could fold space-time around itself, creating a bubble of distorted reality that would allow faster-than-light travel. Sarah understood the theory, but making it work in practice was another matter entirely. The mathematics involved were so complex that her computer systems struggled to process them. Architect Zareth stood beside Sarah's workstation, watching as she manipulated holographic displays showing the ship's energy flows. The Cathara's musical language had become easier to understand as their communication system evolved, allowing for more nuanced conversations about technical details. The resonance cascade continues to destabilize. Zareth's words came through the translator with undertones of worry. Our calculations show the space-time fold collapsing within nanoseconds of initiation, without sustained field coherence. The ship will be torn apart by gravitational shear. Sarah nodded, studying the simulation data. The Cathara had been working on this problem for decades, approaching it with mathematical precision that was both impressive and limiting. Their solutions were elegant but rigid, unable to adapt to the chaotic nature of space-time manipulation. "You're trying to control something that can't be controlled," Sarah said, highlighting a section of the energy flow diagram. "Space-time isn't a machine you can program. It's more like a living thing that responds to gentle guidance rather than brute force." The concept seemed to confuse the Cathara. Their engineering philosophy was based on absolute precision and predictable outcomes. The idea of working with uncertainty went against their fundamental nature. Sarah realized she would need to demonstrate rather than explain. She began modifying the propulsion equations, introducing variables that the Cathara had never considered. Instead of trying to force space-time into a specific configuration, her approach allowed for dynamic adjustments based on real-time conditions. The system would need to learn and adapt, making split-second decisions that no computer could calculate in advance. The breakthrough came when Sarah applied principles from human chaos theory to the Cathara's quantum mechanics. She created a propulsion system that embraced uncertainty, using probability waves to guide the space-time fold rather than rigid mathematical structures. The design was messy by Cathara standards, but it had the flexibility to succeed where their precise calculations had failed. Building the prototype was a nightmare of technical challenges. The space-time manipulation required exotic matter that existed only in theoretical physics. The Cathara had brought samples of their most advanced materials, but even these struggled to contain the energies involved. Sarah had to redesign the containment fields 3 times before finding a configuration that could hold together for more than a few seconds. The first test was a disaster. The prototype's space-time fold lasted exactly 0.3 seconds before collapsing, in a cascade of energy that nearly vaporized the laboratory. Sarah's emergency shutdown procedures saved their lives, but the explosion left a crater where her testing chamber had been. The Cathara looked at her with expressions that might have been admiration or terror. "Your approach is highly unpredictable," Zareth observed, examining the charred remains of the prototype. "Our models cannot account for such chaotic variables. How do you maintain control over systems that change faster than they can be calculated?" Sarah smiled, remembering her early days as an engineering student. "You don't control them. You learn to dance with them. Human engineering isn't about perfection. It's about adaptation. We make mistakes, learn from them, and try again." The second prototype incorporated lessons from the first failure. Sarah added redundant safety systems and multiple feedback loops that could respond to changing conditions. The design was becoming more complex, but also more resilient. The Cathara watched with fascination as she built systems that could literally think for themselves. Time was running out. The Cathara's homeworld had less than 2 days before the expanding star would sterilize the planet. Sarah worked without sleep, fueled by caffeine and determination. The laboratory buzzed with constant activity as both species pushed the boundaries of known science. The third prototype showed promise. The space-time fold held for nearly 10 seconds before beginning to destabilize. Sarah made rapid adjustments, fine-tuning the resonance frequencies and adjusting the exotic matter containment fields. The provided real-time calculations, their collective intelligence processing data faster than any human computer. Success came at 3:47 a.m. on the second day. The fourth prototype achieved stable spacetime folding for over a minute, creating a bubble of distorted reality that could theoretically propel a ship across interstellar distances. The energy readings were staggering, but the system held together, with the graceful chaos that Sarah had designed into it. The Cathara were amazed. Their instruments detected space-time distortions that their mathematics had said were impossible. The human approach to engineering had solved problems that had stumped their civilization for generations. Sarah had shown them that precision and chaos could work together to create something greater than either could achieve alone. Building the full-scale ship took another day of non-stop work. The Cathara manufacturing systems were incredibly advanced, capable of assembling complex structures at the molecular level. Sarah's design was translated into reality with stunning speed, the dream ship taking shape in the construction bay beside her laboratory. The finished vessel was magnificent. 300 meters of flowing metal that seemed to dance with inner light. The whole curves that had seemed impossible in Sarah's sketch now looked perfectly natural, as if the ship had been grown rather than built. The propulsion system was integrated so seamlessly that the boundary between ship and engine had disappeared. Sarah stood beside architect Zareth, watching as the ship's systems came online. The space-time manipulation fields powered up with a harmonic resonance that made the air itself sing. The vessel was ready for its maiden voyage, carrying the hopes of an entire civilization. The journey to the Cathara homeworld took 6 hours using the new propulsion system. Sarah traveled aboard the ship, monitoring the space-time fold as it carried them across impossible distances. The system performed flawlessly, adapting to gravitational anomalies and quantum fluctuations with the fluid grace she had envisioned. Kithros Prime was everything that Kithra had described. The planet glowed with crystal cities that reached toward the stars, their surfaces reflecting the light of dying suns. The ocean sang with alien melodies, and the very air seemed to shimmer with possibility. It was a world that deserved to be saved. The evacuation was a massive undertaking. The Cathara had prepared for this moment, organizing their population into groups that could board the quantum ships Sarah had helped design. The space-time propulsion system allowed for rapid trips between their homeworld and safer star systems, carrying millions of refugees to new homes among the stars. Sarah watched from the ship's observation deck as the last transport departed. The dying star's expansion had begun, its outer layers reaching out to embrace the planet that had been home to the Cathara for millennia. The crystal cities would be destroyed, but the civilization they represented would live on. The Cathara honored Sarah with a ceremony that had never been performed for an alien species. They named her the first non-Cathara to receive the Architect's Crown, a recognition reserved for those who had contributed to the survival of their people. The crystalline device integrated with her nervous system, allowing her to communicate directly with Cathara technology. More importantly, the rescue of the Cathara had established humanity as a major player in galactic affairs. Sarah's engineering breakthrough had solved problems that had puzzled dozens of species, demonstrating that humans brought unique capabilities to the cosmic community. Trade agreements, technology exchanges, and cultural partnerships followed as other civilizations sought to work with the species that had achieved the impossible. Sarah returned to Mars Colony Beta as a hero, but she was already planning her next project. The space-time propulsion system could be improved, refined, and adapted for new purposes. She had proven that human creativity and alien logic could work together to transcend the limitations of either species alone. The dream ship had become reality, but Sarah knew it was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and challenges that would require the combined efforts of all spacefaring species. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, and Sarah Chen had shown the way forward. In her laboratory, now equipped with advanced Cathara technology, Sarah began sketching new designs. The next dream was already taking shape, promising adventures that would push the boundaries of what was possible. The universe was waiting, and humanity was ready to answer its call. The story had begun with a midnight sketch and a desperate alien plea for help. It had become something far greater, a testament to the power of creativity, determination, and the willingness to risk everything for the sake of others. Sarah's blueprint had saved a civilization and opened doors to possibilities that neither human nor alien had imagined. The dream ship soared through space, carrying hope to the stars and proving that sometimes the impossible was just another engineering challenge waiting to be solved. The galaxy had become a smaller place, connected by the vision of a human engineer who had learned to dance with the chaos of space-time itself.